Welcome to the Inappropriate Growth Podcast. Today, we're joined by Sergei Kaminskiy, and I'm excited about this one. Sergei is the founder and CEO of Kaminskiy Design and Remodeling, Kaminskiy Commercial Construction, and Kaminskiy Care and Repair. Sergei is a serial entrepreneur who has achieved success in a variety of industries, including home improvement, healthcare, and commercial real estate. In this episode, we'll discuss Sergei's entrepreneurial journey, his challenges and successes, and his plans for the future. You're going to love this guy's energy. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation. Sit back, relax, and let's get inappropriate. Welcome to the Inappropriate Growth Podcast. I'm Paul Angelle, and today I'm very excited because I've got Mr. Sergei Kaminskiy. Now,
Hey
Sergei,
Paul, how you doing?
I'm good. And so I don't screw it all up, how about you tell us and tell our listeners and our viewers where you are, how you got there, and what do you do?
Well, I'm currently in San Diego, California. I was born in Siberia, came to the States when I was just 7 years old. Originally, we moved to the East Bay, and that's where I grew up, went to high school there. Lived in Southern Oregon just for about a year and a half, and then moved to San Diego about 21 years ago. And currently, what we're doing is we've been in the home improvement space for the last 20 years. So we have an award-winning company. We've won multiple awards for the past 15 years here in San Diego. So anything to do with home improvement, that's what we master.
I'm curious, as I am with every entrepreneur, especially you serial types. Um,
Yeah.
what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
I have to say it was probably my dad, right? I saw my dad early on have his business and do it on a small scale, and just seeing the freedom that it bought him of just being his own boss, kind of setting his own schedule, and kind of calling the shots and doing what he was doing. It just that I think that's what inspired me. I always remember back in school when my friend and I, his dad was a pilot, my dad was an entrepreneur, and when they would ask in school, they say, "Well, what do you guys want to be?" He would always say, "I want to be a pilot." I will always say, "I want to be in business." Right? I had no idea what kind of business I was going to go into. Ironically, we're both in business now, right? So he actually runs one of our locations in East Bay. So it's pretty cool, man. But it's definitely my dad, man. My dad inspired me.
As with most entrepreneurs, everything is rosy and perfect right out of the gate, right? I mean, there was no challenges, nothing was hard. I'm curious if you might have had any challenges to face when you first started this business.
Man, nothing but challenges, Paul. I mean, that's what true entrepreneurship is, man. People like to see the success. You get a lot of congratulations when you finally make it, but when you're starting, it's lonely, man. And there's a lot of hard work that's ahead of you when you're starting out. My wife and I, we had $70 to our name, and we were living in a one-bedroom apartment. And I remember like it was yesterday, she called me up and she says, "Hey, babe, I don't think we're going to make rent. We don't have enough money to pay the bills." And I came home. I was working as a framer at the time, making $17 an hour. I came home and I said, "Well, listen, I do know that I could pull off some handyman jobs, right? Because I can hustle and I can grind." And literally what we did is we went to our club room in the apartment complex that we lived in. I didn't have a computer at home. Like we didn't even have a computer or a printer, in our apartment. But the club room, it was a nice apartment complex. I remember I rented it was one of the nicest ones in San Diego, but it was a one bedroom little unit. Somehow I justified it at the time. And we went to this club room because it had the printer and a computer. And I designed a flyer on Microsoft Word, and it had little palm trees, with the theme of San Diego on the perimeter, and then it said San Diego County Handyman Service Plus. And we wrapped up like 20, 25 flyers. Literally went to Target, bought some like string, and we put a little bow around each one. I put them in a plastic bag. And Paul, kid you not, it was raining that day, nighttime, and I had about 25 flyers wrapped. And she was driving on the street, and I was running door to door and placing these flyers in front of each door. And I did about 20, 25 of them. It wasn't that much, but it seemed like a lot to me, at the time. And I was like, man, I hope somebody calls me. And sure enough, The next day, we get a call, and that was my first customer, right? And so we went in. I finished my job, and then I went and I did this side job and did very well, made good money, and I was like, man, I can do this again, right? And so we started waking up like 3, 4 in the morning on Saturdays and just going and passing out flyers. And she would take one side of the street, I would take the other side of the street, and that's what we would do, man. And we just sit and wait for the phone to ring, and then I would go estimate the jobs, do the jobs. But a lot of challenges along the way, man. A lot of challenges along the way, and uh, there's man, so many challenges. I can tell you so many stories, but it's
Well, I
you
was joking when I said it's always smooth going. I know better.
know, no, I got it. I knew you were being sarcastic.
what, what, well, what can you say, especially early on? What was the biggest success? I mean, I know you're never going to forget the first client or the first successful campaign or the first time you turned a profit, but what would you say was the biggest first success?
I would say my biggest first success that I remember is one of the things that I was actually dreading. I was kind of scared of doing it, but is when I first launched our TV marketing campaign. Like, I remember that being a pivotal point in our business, right? It was about 3 to 4 years into actually grinding, hustling, doing handyman jobs, starting to do some kitchen bath remodels and start doing some remodeling. And then I got inspired. I'm like, I want to run a TV ad. Like, I want to be on TV. And I called in Channel 6. It was our local news station here. And I sat down, and a nice young lady came in, and she was very open with me, and she just like really educated me on the process of like television, because I had no idea like what television was, how to record a commercial, how the spots are purchased. Like, I didn't know anything about it. And so she came and she just sat and she explained everything to me, and I bought my first TV ad campaign from her, and she gave me a heck of a deal, right? And so then I went into one of the local casinos because they had their in-house production studio. That's what the TV station actually used to shoot commercials for anyone that bought TV spots from their channel. And so we went in there and I recorded my first 30-second spot. And then I remember when that thing aired, it was something like it was inspiring for me, man. And then like, but I had so much fear going into it because I was like, people are going to know. Like, people are gonna see me on TV, and always the fear of you become a target, stuff like, stuff that goes through your head where it's like, oh, I'm a little bit scared or hesitant to become famous or for people to see me on television because, well, now you become a target. Am I ready for it? What are people gonna think? Who's gonna question? And all of those things are going through your mind. And I remember the butterflies in my stomach doing it, but yet I showed up, we recorded it, we aired it, and it was a great thing, man. It was a great thing for our business because now, I mean, we've been on TV for over 15 years now in San Diego. I've done every form of marketing imaginable, everything from radio to magazines. I mean, back when Yellow Pages was around, we did Yellow Pages. I mean, everything. Now we're on social media, pay per click, organic SEO, all of it. I mean, it's so much that we've done in the past 15 years, but it helped us out tremendously. We're a household name now. So, when you mention Kaminsky, people know the name, and it's I attribute that to that decision of getting on television. It was a big one for me for sure.
Yeah, like you said, she gave you a great deal, but probably still wasn't easy yet to write that check, even if it was a great deal.
Money was tight. It was a step of faith for sure. It was like, man, I'm like literally, I remember thinking I need to get a job out of this. I need to get a customer out of this. I hope this works. I hope it pays for itself, and it did. It did, and many times over. So it was definitely a good decision. Another one, like, this is 3 years into it. Another one where I could say is a big one for me is when I decided to finally go off on my own 100%. Because as I mentioned to you earlier, I was working for a framing contractor. It was a pretty big company, about 200 employees. And I knew the superintendent very well. He was a really good guy. I was young, man. I was 19 years old, but he liked me. He saw something in me. So when he would walk the job, he would spend some time talking to me as I was working. And I remember when I started doing the flyers and I got one customer, then I got another one. And then I landed a project. It was a couple $1,000 project. But for me, that was enough to be able to take 2 weeks off and really try this thing 100%. Right. So I remember I got this one job for this nice lady, and I came to Jim. Jim was the superintendent. I said, Jim, I said, hey, listen, man, I brought a flyer with me. I set up an appointment at his office, and I brought a flyer with me, and I walked in his office. I said, Jim, I said, I'm starting this handyman business, man. I want to try this handyman business. And I showed him the flyer. He goes, Sergey, I'm happy for you. He goes, I'm happy for you. He goes, I'll tell you one thing. He goes, remember my words. He goes, work will come, but good people are hard to find. And at the time, man, I was so naive, and I was just like, give me the work, I'll find the people. I was so hungry, right? But his words ring so true in my mind. And the longer I stay in business, the more I appreciate a good team and good people. And when we find them, we try to keep them. But that was another pivotal moment, because it was another moment where I'm like, it was those butterflies. It was like you're leaving something that's secure, that is steady, and you're going off and you're really taking a leap of faith and saying, I'm going to go out on my own. Right. And so that was the last time that I really saw him. Right. Because, the business took off, man. And I started getting one job and then the next job and then the next job and just getting into it, man. So those two moments were very, very big in my, business career for sure.
Tell me about the business. What right now? What are the plans for the future?
So now we're 20 years in business. We have dominated in San Diego. We do so well. We have three divisions. We have Kaminskiy Design Remodeling, which is focused more on high-end design and remodels. Our average project's $450,000. So anything from like 70, 80K all the way up to $3+ million. Somebody's hiring us to do a high-end renovation of their home. The next one is we have Kaminskiy Commercial Construction. So we've built out a state-of-the-art uh, whole kitchen manufacturing plant for one of the best manufacturing plants in the United States, and actually located here in Vista. It's a 37,000 square foot facility, and we've done other commercial jobs along the way. And then we have the handyman business. So what happened is I started as a handyman business. Then I started chasing the big jobs with the real big remodels, right? But in the back of my head, I was like, man, the handyman is kind of my fallback plan, because it's a really good cash flow business, because it's like little jobs. You're constantly getting them. It's always putting money in the bank. And my dad used to tell me, my business mentor, Bob Straw, used to tell me, Sergey, there's something about that handyman business, because that's how I met him. I met him through a handyman job. And so for me, I never let the handyman go. And even I was, doing these multi-million-dollar remodels. When the phone would ring for a handyman job, I would tell my front desk, I would say, send somebody out and do it. Let's get it done. Let's go replace the ceiling fan. Go patch that drywall. Don't let those customers go. I want to maintain that, because I knew at some point I want to do something with that business. Well, fast forward from 2005 to 2022, and then I'm like, you know what? There is something about this handyman business. Like, I'm chasing, I was chasing these big jobs, big ticket items, but I'm like, man, these small necessity items are like so interesting to me, right? Because I see like it could be scaled. Then my friend calls me from East Bay. And this guy at the time, he's my childhood friend, knew him since seventh grade. He uh, owns a successful car dealership at the time. And he calls me and goes, Sergey, I want to get into your space. He's seen my success in the home improvement industry. And he saw that, the whole car industry is kind of going down with Tesla coming in, all the automation coming in, with Carvana coming in. So like the car dealers have taken a significant hit in their business. And it's still doing well. But he said, look, I want to get into your space. I said, great. I said, well, why don't we open up a location in East Bay? And he goes, I'd be honored to. I said, let's do it. So as we started opening up the location in East Bay, which is 500 miles away from San Diego, it's Northern California, no Kaminskiy presence there. And I'm starting to teach him and mentor him. I'm like, wait, there is something to this. Like, all of a sudden, my 18 years experience is really coming into play, and I could really teach somebody how to gain traction really quick. And so I'm like, I want to scale this nationally, because I can have locations all over the United States. I can design systems and processes that's going to make people successful. I reach out to my business partner at the time. We bought a multi-location dental farm in Michigan with him. And I was one of the only private investors at the time. But I called him up. I said, Olida, here's the vision. What do you think? And because we bought this multi-level location firm and we were able to successfully scale it, and he was getting ready to exit, or we were getting ready to exit, and he goes, Sergey, I'm in. Let's do this thing. So now, I brought him in as a managing partner in Kaminskiy Care and Repair. And now we're scaling this thing nationally. And we've developed franchise systems and processes. We have our own in-house marketing department. We take care of the estimation. We take care of the administrative services. So if you could imagine, Paul, any blue collar, we call them blue collar entrepreneurs. So there's hundreds of thousands of handymen that are out there, right? So it's them working themselves, maybe with a helper, maybe they have two additional helpers, but they're carrying that small business and trying to do all the admin work, all the estimation work, trying to get the leads to come in, and they're overpaying for those leads because they're buying them from Angie's List or Thumbtack or Yelp. And so those lead service providers are selling those leads to multiple people, right? So what we do is we have our own in-house marketing department, and we know how to get home improvement leads for rock bottom prices. So now we're getting these home improvement leads at a fraction of the cost for our franchisees. We're doing the administrative work so they no longer have to be by the phone every minute of the day, because we have centralized administrative services that are going to pick up the phone on their behalf. So now they're not missing out on opportunities, because in the service business, it's all about speed to lead. So if you don't get back to a customer within 3 to 5 minutes, you're going to lose that customer. They're going to call the next person, the next person, the next person, until someone picks up. So it's all about speed to lead. So we need to make sure someone's always there on the phone answering. And then so when we pick up the phone, then we could route it to that specific location. And if that franchisee is busy on a job, or maybe they're in the attic doing work, or they're on the roof, or whatever the case may be, and they say, look, I can't take the call right now. Can we have one of our corporate estimators estimate it on my behalf? Then what we do is we transfer that call to a corporate estimator, and we sell the job for the franchisee. And these estimators are commission only based on the profit of the job. So everyone wins, right? Because the customer gets the service they were calling for. The franchisee doesn't lose the business. They still get the business. It's on their calendar. And the estimator makes money. So it's a win-win-win, man. It's a phenomenal system. Nobody else is doing this. Like, no one else is doing what we're doing. And we're seeing great success with it, man. A lot of people are interested. We got people signing up already, and we just started, man.
You talk about these blue collars with the construction experience and know-how, and they know what they're doing. Typically, people with that experience and that knowledge don't have MBAs, right? They
They
didn't.
don't.
Then people with MBAs can barely hang a picture, much less
That's
fix
right.
drywall or plumbing or anything. So
Man, you nailed it, man. You're exact. You see exactly what I'm talking about.
what you've got is a system that's worthy of someone with an MBA putting the pieces together and understanding of the business side of it, that lets the owner operator really, really focus on performing the
What
task.
they love, man. What they love. Because these guys, man, I've hired them for 20 years. So I know exactly what the demographic is. But these guys, they love working with their hands. They love seeing kind of them putting together something, and they love the gratification they get, where they're like, the customer's happy, the customer's satisfied. They see what they put together. That's what they love. They hate the phone calls, they hate the paperwork, they hate the accounting work, they hate all of that.
You go to the beach on vacation and you see there's some dad out there making a 3-story sandcastle. Like, yeah, he's doing what he loves and he's doing his job.
That's our franchisee right there, man. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for aspiring entrepreneurs, maybe interested in your franchise, your type of business, or just in general?
Advice would be, first off, take the leap of faith, man, because life is short. And I have to tell you, I have friends that I knew since I was a kid that always wanted to be in business. And now they're in their 40s, mid 40s, and that kind of thing. And the more time goes by, the less I see them getting into business, right? Because the risk tolerance goes down, because they have families, they have mortgages, they have bills to pay, they have mouths to feed. So Now for them, like, it's not like when I was a 19-year-old kid, I had nothing to lose. And I said, I'm just going in, I don't care. And I'm not turning back. They're in a different situation. So, but to me, life is short, and I say take the leap, go and do it. And not necessarily, you know, I don't look at it and say, hey, go do what you love. Because to me, I mean, do I love construction or do I love home improvement? Uh, you know, Eh, I don't love it, but I'm good at it, and it's something where I found where I can excel and I could make money, and that's what it was about. Are there sexier businesses than a handyman business? 100%. You can go buy a restaurant, right? But as a business, I mean, it's sexy on the outside, like you think, oh man, I own my own restaurant, I own my own sandwich shop, I own it. It sounds great. But if you look at the numbers of restaurants, that would be probably the last business that I would go into knowing what I know. So for me, it's like go into a business that has a potential to make money and get you the financial freedom so you could spend time with your family and you can enjoy your life eventually, right? So to me, and also get ready for hard work. Like I don't get some of these people where they go into business thinking that it's gonna be just a bed of roses, man. I mean, and just a bed of flowers, and they're just gonna be, living the dream life. I mean, being an entrepreneur, you're fighting battles, man.
They don't really realize they're leaving a 40 to 50-hour job with good pay for a 80 to 100-hour job that might not pay you at all.
Yeah,
You don't
man,
want to do
exactly.
it. You got to want to. Something has to be wrong with you to
Yeah,
want to do that. That's why there's so few true entrepreneurs, because it's definitely not safe. I mean, but in addition to the leap of faith, which I'm a big proponent of decisive action and taking action
yeah.
before you're an expert. What would you say to someone who maybe has taken a leap of faith, but they're still struggling to achieve their goals? Because I'm sure you experienced that even after the leap of faith. What's the best advice you could give there?
I would say hyper focus on whatever it is that you're doing. Like I haven't seen people achieve success by huge diversification or diversifying in general. Like I haven't seen it. Maybe you have, but I haven't seen people achieve, hit a home run and just be so good at whatever it is that they do with diversification. Like everything I've seen, what I've done in my life, I hyper focus on whatever it is that I'm doing. So for me, it was home improvement. I lived and I breathed home improvement for like 15 years before I started diversifying into any other things. Right? I became the best at it. I wanted to be known for it. I wanted to be an expert at it. I mean, from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep, it was all about home improvement. And I was able to master it and stand out. It's no different, man. To me, business, the more I'm in business, the more I look at it and I compare it to professional athletes. When you have guys like Tom Brady, right? You have LeBron James. You don't have Tom Brady going around and playing basketball half the time. You don't have you don't have LeBron James going around and throwing footballs half the time trying to be a QB. Like
I
they
do have a Tom Brady baseball card. He played for the Expos for a year in
But I'm just
Montreal.
saying, like, dude, these guys are focused on their art, on their form of art, and they're perfecting it to be the best. And I look at business the same, Paul. Like, honestly, like, I try to make sure my health is in tip top shape. I try to make sure I exercise, I eat well, because I'm looking at it. I'm like, man, if my mind isn't right, then that idea might not come to me. Maybe I'll be too tired to be inspired to do the next thing that's gonna change and transform our business. You like I look Yes, like I'm looking at it as like I have to be at 100% peak performance all the time because one interaction could change the trajectory of a company. And so if I'm sluggish, if I'm in a bad mood because my diet is off, because I'm not well rested, because I went out and got drunk, the day before, whatever the case is, I might lose that next opportunity. So for me, I'm always looking at it like, man, if I want to be the best at what we do, I'm going to perform like an athlete, right? I'm going to get my mind right. I'm going to get my body right. I mean, everything spiritual has to be right for me. Everything has to be in line. And when everything is in line, then I truly see success. I see like I'm advancing. And look, you don't have to be 100 times better than someone else. You only have to be 10, 20% better than someone else, and compiling effect will take place. right? Because in a year, imagine you're 10, 20% better than the next guy. 10 years from now, you're twice as good as him.
You've heard the joke where the two guys are in the woods and a bear's coming. And so one guy starts putting on his running shoes. He goes, "You're not going to outrun a bear." And he says, "I just have to outrun you."
I just got to outrun you, man. That's it.
We had an entrepreneur from here in Louisiana. He's now on Shark Tank. Like he's one of these big success guys. His name's Jerry Graves. And when he was in college, he had an idea to make a restaurant, a little drive-through fast food restaurant, but all they were going to serve were fried chicken strips and some spicy sauce. And that was it, French fries, nothing else. So when you go to his restaurant, you would say, "Do you want 3 strips, or do you want 5, or do you want
Yeah, super
6?"
simple menu.
Or
Yeah,
no, they get crazy. You could put 3 strips on a bun, and it's a chicken sandwich. But that's it. You're getting
yeah,
chicken if you go to Raising Cane's restaurant.
right.
And it was,
Oh, is that the one you're talking about, Raising
yeah,
Cane?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
I saw that episode of Shark Tank when he was on it.
well,
Seems
he went.
seems like a nice guy.
Oh no, friendly guy. I mean, just a guy you would see at a rodeo or a high school football game or something. Just a regular guy. But he sold the rights for Raising Cane's. This was 10 years ago, and this was 10 years after he incorporated.
Mm,
Just the rights to California.
right.
Somebody wanted the rights of that franchise for that state.
Yeah.
For these no real estate, no nothing. The recipes maybe and the diagrams and everything that went with the franchise. $950 million to just say, "I won't sell franchises in California."
Yeah.
Wow. And
Right.
this was 10 years ago when, I
Yeah.
mean, nine hundred
Yeah. I
fifty
mean,
million is still a bunch of money, but that was a bunch of money pre-COVID. That was a bunch of
100%.
money back then. And it was the simplicity of the idea. The restaurants that restaurant makes money. Why?
Right.
Because they inventory French fries, coleslaw, and chicken, and that's it. They don't have to. You go to
And actually, one of the episodes uh, on Shark Tank that I saw, someone came in pitching like this creative ice cream idea, and these other sharks looked at him, right, and they said, "Well, why don't you maybe invest? I mean, you might be able to add it to your menu at the restaurant." He goes, "No." He goes, "We're good at what we do and we really focus on what we do." He goes, "I don't want to add anything else to my menu. I've been very intentional about keeping it very simple."
We've
And
all heard
so,
the jokes about the ice cream machine at McDonald's is always broken. And that's all you remember. You're not hearing about somebody had something good to eat there. You just
right.
add because the ice cream machine didn't break.
That's right.
You don't
Yeah,
have one, it won't break.
that's right.
We know that you like to run business. You like
Yes.
construction model. What's your favorite way to relax?
So there is things that I do on a weekly basis, right? So I love doing saunas, man. I got two different types of saunas. I have a conventional, uh, like one of those Swedish saunas, like where you pour water on the rocks, right? And I have one of those. I custom built it at my house, and I have an infrared sauna as well. So that's more like infrared lamps, and I go in that one at least usually once a week, and love it, man. I have those infrared bulbs in there, and I sometimes I'll take a nice bath before I go in, and I'll just sit there, I'll stretch out, and just kind of decompress. A lot of times I do that on a Sunday before the week, and I love it. Right? That's something I do consistently. Right? This is something like it's part of my routine. But I love spending time with family, man. I mean, we take family trips, we take vacations every now and then. I love travel, man. It's one of my favorite things to do. Like I love business, I love making money, but I love to travel. I mean, it's like that's one of the things that I mean, I can see myself living out of a suitcase if I had the opportunity. Almost sometimes, I'll get tired of it, I'll come back, but then again, I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go again. And it's like it's something that I truly enjoy. I love just seeing new cultures, man. I feel like it opens up my mind and it makes me a more like well-rounded person. Because you get to communicate. Like you could watch when we do this actually, like we'll watch a documentary or we'll watch some sort of like of a YouTube episode on whatever place we're usually going to go visit, and just to get an idea of the culture and understand it. But then when we go there, we're like, it's so much different than the documentary. Like, because it's, you could watch it on TV, you could do research online, but when you go, you're like, this is totally different. Like, yes, there are going to be some things that they talk about that's going to be the same, obviously. But it's like you get to feel the culture, you get to taste the food, you get to smell the smells, you get to kind of experience the energy. So for me, that's, yeah, I love that, man. I love traveling.
You went East Bay, Oregon. You moved around a little bit, but you've been in San Diego almost 20 years.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about living there?
Ah, how much time do you have, man? Listen, arguably the best place in the world. It's love the people here, love the climate, love the kind of just real estate architecture. I live in Poway, which is about 20 miles from downtown, so it's kind of a little bit more inland, but we have a couple acres, and it's, man, it's amazing, man. No matter where I go in the world, every time I come back to San Diego, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm going back to San Diego. And it's like for me, and like, I mean, look, we own property in Florida too. We own a couple properties in Florida, Tulum, right? Tulum, Mexico. I've traveled a significant amount, like I told you, and then we own property in Southern Oregon, and so I have something to compare to, right? It's not like I don't have anything to compare to. Man, I love San Diego, man. Have you been to San Diego?
I have. I like it. It's easy to get in and out of Mexico.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a client in Temecula.
Temecula. Yep, yep, yep.
Um,
We have an office in Temecula as well. Actually, yeah, actually, our partners live in Temecula.
it's a husband and wife. The husband is a former IRS guy that went into
Hmm.
private practice, helping people with taxes and tax
Oh
controversy,
wow,
stuff like that. The best guy. And he's a
wow.
true Italian. His name is Prieto Canestrelli. And the way he says Canestrelli, it's like Geppetto from Pinocchio.
Right.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I loved talking with them because it was a husband and wife. She was like San Diego, California girl. You could tell her voice. She's from there,
yeah.
and he was an immigrant. And they were my. We would have like our quarterly meeting, and they were the people I was most excited to see at the thing because they were always smiling. Like I can't imagine what their faces look like not smiling. You know, people like.
Right.
And so he was saying, "Yeah, I'm in Temecula. Not a city person, but if I was going to have to hang out in a city, being attached to San Diego is much better than being attached to Los Angeles."
Totally different, man. Like I have a cousin, and my sister lives in Los Angeles. I mean, they're like Woodland Hills area, they're out of Los Angeles. It's not like metropolitan Los Angeles. And man, totally different vibe, man. Like San Diego is a lot more laid back. It's a little bit, like just more kind of a relaxed type of a vibe. But I mean, there are people that are high energy like me here, and then there are people that are a little bit kind of less energy. And I mean, it's a melting pot. But I love it, man. It's a great place to be. Just year round. I mean, like right now, you look outside, not a cloud in the sky, 70 degrees sunshine. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
But this has been very informative and awesome. Let's say someone is interested in and wants more information about maybe having a handyman service available or wants to do a major overhaul in the San Diego area or somewhere where you service. What's the
Sure.
best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, just visit karenrepair.com, click on the franchising tab, and then we're actually running master classes now where you can join a master class even if you don't know much about franchising. It's a great way for you to kind of join and understand what franchising is as a whole, and then learn more about the Kaminsky Care and Repair franchise and how it could benefit you. So that would be the best way to go. You can also visit my Instagram at sergey.kaminskiy, and you can see stuff about the franchise there. We post reels on there all the time.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. This has been great. Great getting to know you and
Thanks,
learning
thanks,
about
thanks,
what
Paul, man.
you
Appreciate
do.
you.
I want to remind you and anyone who might be watching or listening, if you're going to grow, chances are you're going to have to do something inappropriate.